Hello everyone. This video is part of a series where we are developing a microservices-based social media application, and our main focus is to learn the microservices pattern and some solutions and best practices to its main challenges. So here is an overview of what we are working on at the moment and our plan for the near future. This screen presents a more detailed overview, so if you are interested you can pause the video and have a look at it. We also have a Kanban board where we are tracking the progress of our user stories and their subtasks. And we have a backlog that we will eventually come back to in order to do additional planning whenever we are done with the tasks that we have selected for development. In the previous video, we have implemented the Node Mailer email API. And this Node Mailer email API can send emails, right? So now it implements the methods that are necessary to send the email. And if you want to check the previous video, at the end of it, in the index file, I present an example of how to send the email. And I also present some steps on how to set up a local SMTP server in order to receive the emails locally so that you can check this without consuming any quota of any paid service that you may use or any service that has a limited free quota, right? So we don't want to consume that, so we can set up a local SMTP server for development. In this video, I want to revisit the types with you. So I want to revisit this abstract class type because I'm not really satisfied with the implementation of this send email type. What happens is that send email is really an internal detail, right? The external world doesn't need to know about the send email method. It doesn't need to care whether the send email method is implemented or whether the class is sending emails via some other type of function. What it needs to care is about this send sign up verification email. So I need to make sure that my class really implements the send sign up verification email method, but how it internally sends the emails, we don't really care, right? So what I really want to do is within my Node Mailer email API, I want to mark this as private. But as you can see, this is going to make the class break because here, whenever we declare something on an interface, and an interface is really a public contract, right? So it really establishes methods that should be accessible or they should be visible to other classes, because then we can have the substitution principle, right? If we change a specific class for another class that implements the same interface, the class that is using this should still behave in the same way, and that's the purpose of interfaces. So here it breaks because the method is private, and it can be private because I don't care about it, right? So I can simply delete this from my email sender email API. And as you can see, these two methods here, the send sign up verification email and this send sign up verification email, they are exactly the same, right? So I was thinking that, okay, maybe it makes sense for me to simply merge this into one email API interface. And I can then use this email API interface in other functions, right? So here I can say, or in other classes. Email API, so the Node Mailer email API implements my email API. And now everything here, there is no super anymore because I'm not extending any class, but it implements the email API. And then my email sender will also implement my email API, right? Here I can cancel this and I'll say that this email API is going to be of type email API, and that this email API is going to be of type email API. And I also need to change my mock email API because it's not going to implement this anymore. It's going to implement my email API, right? And as you can see, that's as many changes as we need to do. We don't need to worry too much about it at the moment, but I was just really not satisfied with the types that we were using here. Now I think it's much cleaner, and if we want to extend this interface of email API, then we can definitely either add more methods here or break this down into individual interfaces and then compose them as we want them to work. Here I'll just do another change, and that's just for the sake of completeness, that I will call this as a function rather than a member attribute. I think that's how my IDE calls it, because then it's quite clear that the send signup verification email is going to be a function, and we are just implementing it here. So let me save and let me run linting and TypeScript to make sure that everything is working as expected. Give it a couple of seconds and everything should be fine. Perhaps we have some imports that are broken, but let's see. No, everything seems to be working fine. I'll just run my prettier command. It changed my types, okay, it came back to the multi-line, that's not a problem. And then, for the sake of completeness, let's run our tests. Okay, now you may be wondering, just one small comment. As you can see, this email sender here is implementing the email API, right? So the email API is really, it defines the shape of our internal email API, and it defines whichever methods we need in order to communicate with our users, right? So we have the first method is the send signup verification email. Perhaps another method could be send account cancellation email, for example. We will get to this at some point. And as we define more methods here, by using a single type to implement both the email sender and the internal APIs, then I can rest assured that I can always call this.email API dot and then the method that I want to, because I know that I will have this method also in my email APIs. Now this is something that maybe you are wondering, okay, is this the best practice or no? For the moment, I don't see a reason not to go with this. If we see that this gets too complex to maintain over time, and I mean to add all the methods here and have a larger interface, we can always break this down into specific behaviors, right? So we could say, instead of an email API interface, we could say something like this: export interface signup verification email sender, for example, and this would contain only our function like this. And we could also export another interface that would be account cancellation email sender, and this would have then just our send account cancellation email, and this would be something like this. So we can break this down. If we see that it's getting too complex to maintain, we can break it down into its different constituents, into its different behaviors. For the moment, I think it makes sense to group everything under one interface, because we want to make sure that the interfaces and that all email APIs implement all the necessary methods for communication, and that the email sender provides a proxy for all the methods and to each respective method within the email API. Okay, so this is the change I wanted to make in this video. And I also wanted to discuss this a little bit with you for you to understand the motivation behind these changes. I think that this is enough. We'll come back in the next video and we will continue working with our NodeMailer email API. So if you want to get a notification about when the next video is out, or about other videos that I publish in other playlists, make sure to subscribe to the channel and you will get a notification every time I upload a new video to YouTube. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.